good morning. Today is Wednesday, April the 16th, 2025, and it is Wednesday of Holy Week already. And I hope you're already making plans to join us tonight for midweek worship at 7 p.m. We'll have a special time where we look at Mark chapter 15, verses 1 through 20 this evening, in a sermon I'll preach entitled, We Are Barabbas, as we prepare our hearts in the middle of Holy Week. But before we get to this evening, I want to speak to you today on our devotional series that we have been doing this week, obviously Monday, Tuesday. Hopefully you've been keeping up with your Holy Week reading guide, as well as your Holy Week devotional, whether you are accessing that physically with a physical copy or digitally. I want to speak to you on Mark chapter 14, verses 1 through 11. You only had 11 verses to read this morning, so I gave you a break from the many verses that you had yesterday. But I want to speak to you this morning on a devotion I've entitled, An Opportunity to Pounce. See, on Wednesday of Holy Week, we believe there's not as much that happened compared to the other days, especially what we'll look at tomorrow. And so most scholars call it Silent Wednesday. We don't know exactly what happened. And the events of Mark chapter 14, verses 1 through 11, of course, describe the anointing of Jesus at Bethany. Now, as I mentioned several weeks ago from the pulpit, I don't personally believe that the anointing of Jesus at Bethany by Mary happened on Wednesday of Holy Week, but there is something that we do know that happened. And that is the fact that Judas's mind starts thinking in terms of betraying Jesus. On Wednesday of Holy Week, the plotting and planning of Judas to betray Jesus begins. This is something the Pharisees and religious leaders had been waiting on. And if you look in your text in Mark chapter 14, verses 10 through 11, you're going to see there, it reads, Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. And when they heard it, they were glad. Right? In the Greek, it means they were exuberant, like, wow, this just came into our lap. One of the 12, one of the closest people to Jesus, is willing to betray him. Kind of an aha moment for them. And promised to give him money. That ends up being 30 pieces of silver, which is equivalent to around $700 in today's money. And he sought an opportunity to betray him. And so on Wednesday of Holy Week, Judas goes forward to them, and Judas has this conversation and initiates this. He takes an opportunity to pounce, and as we're going to see tomorrow, and as we looked at last Wednesday night during midweek worship, Judas is going to do that. Judas is going to betray Jesus with a kiss. And we saw that in the text, and we'll see it tomorrow. When it comes to Judas, obviously he was the treasurer. He was the keeper of the finances. He must have been a trusted individual to take care of the money. But he betrayed Jesus. He took this opportunity to pounce. And I think there's several things in common with Judas and religious leaders that we need to check our heart this morning to make sure it's not found in us. What do I mean by that? Number one, people like Judas and the religious leaders, people that want to pounce on others and bring them down, prey on someone else's downfall. Now, I'm not talking about the P-R-A-Y, I'm talking about the P-R-E-Y, the preying on someone else's downfall. They have that in common. Secondly, pride takes priority over relationships. Pride and greed took precedence in Judas's mind over his personal relationship with Jesus. That he would rather deny Jesus as the Christ, betray Jesus, spend eternity in hell for 30 pieces of silver. Pride and greed clouded his mind. And the third thing, the third similarity between Judas and the religious leaders is that greed clouds reality. And I don't know where you are today. I don't know if you're preying on someone else's downfall. Maybe you're scrolling on social media looking to see if somebody's posted something that you can pounce on them about or slap their wrist on. Or maybe you've got pride to where you won't speak to certain individuals because you think you're better than they are. Or maybe greed and the love of money and material possessions is clouding your reality this Holy Week. If that's the case, as this video comes to a close, I want you to turn the phone off, turn the computer off, spend some time in prayer, search your heart, ask God to search you, to clean your heart as we prepare our hearts for worship tonight for Wednesday midweek worship service of Holy Week as we continue to get closer to Resurrection Sunday. Hope you have a great Wednesday, and we will see you in just a little bit right in here at the First Baptist Church of Gaston. We'll eat together at 6 o'clock in the fellowship hall. We'll come in here for corporate worship at 7 p.m. I'll see you there.